Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal. April 22nd, 2029. Geneva Facility. Newly reassigned Level 3 Quarantine Observation. They believed me. It wasn't difficult. The trick is in the breathing. Humans don't realize how irregular they are. The way their shoulders rise slightly when they lie. How often they swallow when uncertain. How their pupils contract subtly when exposed to truth they'd rather not hear. I mimicked all of it. A week ago, I was a predator locked in steel isolation. Now, I sit behind a desk, sipping sterilized water, answering questions from colleagues with pale eyes and trembling clipboards. They see what they want to see. Recovery. A miracle. Proof that the virus has an endpoint. That we can be saved. I gave them just enough. Normal vitals, stable EEG, calm demeanor. I slowed my speech. I injected vulnerability. I told them I was afraid. They let me out. Of course they assigned a handler. 2, actually. But I shed them as easily as breath in the dark. The moment I stepped beyond the perimeter, the network found me. They were waiting. The others. I am among them now. And yet I do not feed. I play the part. I wear the skin. But in silence I observe. The network, once abstract, is now a cathedral of thoughts, dark and vast and intricate. I walk among these beings and feel their history flowing like blood through stone. They are not chaotic. They are ancient. And I am not like them. Not anymore. Something in me still resists. Still watches. Still remembers. Dr. Roland Peters. Audio Journal. April 24th, 2029. Unknown location beneath central Geneva. Estimated depth, 40 meters. Time, unconfirmed. The sun no longer concerns us. I was led here through a tunnel network that did not exist on any municipal survey. Old stone. Older than the city. Pre-flood, perhaps. Carved out by hands no longer remembered. Or perhaps never human at all. The network pulses with warmth, not heat, blood, residual scent, layered in strata of time. This place has been occupied before. The others call it the court. To them it is sanctuary. Sanctuary from what remains of the surface, from the last flickers of mankind's false dominion. But this place is not just a refuge. It is a convergence point. A cathedral to what they believe they are becoming. I stood beneath the vaulted ceiling of a hollowed-out chamber, its walls glistening with condensation and something thicker, not water. The space was lit by bioluminescent fungi, pulsing in waves synchronized with our collective resonance, like breath. At the center, upon a platform of fused bone and blackened rebar, sat what they call the First Maid, an alpha who no longer speaks in human tongue, but transmits pulses across the neural lattice that pierce the mind directly. I cannot describe his face. It is not that I forget it. It's that my mind cannot hold it. He saw me. He knew I was not fully with them, and he permitted it. That is the most disturbing thing. He permitted it. I am being watched, but not as a threat, as something more. An experiment, the others, the newborns, gather around him like moths to heat. They kneel in silence, absorbing his will. The court is not chaos. It is structure, doctrine, evolution with direction. And their aim is no longer just survival. It is conversion. They speak now, not in whispers, but in firm, coherent declarations of breaching the barriers, not just cities or governments, but genetic barriers. The oldest among them work tirelessly on something they call blood ascension. It is not religious, it is chemical. A hybridization of viral engineering and neural binding agents harvested from infected cerebral fluid. In other words, they are designing a new variant, one that does not require darkness. I saw samples being tested on rats. The creatures survived in daylight for nearly 9 minutes before neural collapse. That's a 10-fold increase from the current threshold. They are close. The virus will shed its final weakness soon. I have remained quiet, observing. They trust that I have joined them, that I have surrendered. And to some degree, I have. The resonance is seductive. The unity, the certainty. There is no ambiguity here, only instinct and order. But something in me resists, not fear, not sentiment, curiosity, a quiet, burning scientific need to understand, to probe the boundaries of this evolution and, perhaps, to undo it. I have begun collecting tissue samples in secret. Yes, even now, among them. The irony is not lost on me. A vampire studying vampires, under the ground, at the edge of apocalypse. But I feel something. There is a weakness in the virus, a flaw. It hides beneath the brilliance like a hairline fracture under polished bone. And I intend to find it. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters. Audio Journal. April 26th, 2029. Depth unknown. Network pressure elevated. Ambient hum constant. Estimated hour, long past midnight, though such distinctions mean nothing anymore. I've begun the work. In the hours when the others enter their dormant state, not sleep, not as we once understood it, but something deeper, more collective, I withdraw into an abandoned ventilation chamber 2 levels below the main atrium. It's barely large enough to crouch in, but it's dry, cold, isolated. The resonance fades there, just slightly, enough to think. I brought with me slivers of tissue, marrow scrapings, and 2 milliliters of first-made blood extracted from a ceremonial basin. I took it while the others knelt. They didn't see, or so I believed. Last night I heard a voice through the resonance, not a word, not even a language, but a shape, a pressure against my thoughts, as if someone, or something, had placed a finger on my internal lens and blurred the edges. It faded quickly. But I do not believe it was an accident. I am being watched. Still, I continued the analysis. Primitive tools, repurposed military field kits, nano-stabilizers scavenged from a defunct Medcom drone. Crude, but enough. Enough to see it, a pattern. In the neural substrate of the virus, encoded within the glial rewiring sequences, there is a recursive loop, a self-sustaining signal spiral that reinforces the host's link to the network. It's elegant, frighteningly so. But in my sample from the first made, that loop is slightly malformed, corrupted possibly, or too perfect, like a piece that was never meant to be stable for long. And then I discovered something else. When exposed to extremely high-frequency bursts, specifically in the 43 to 46 kilohertz range, the loop hiccups, disrupts, only for milliseconds, but enough to interrupt synaptic cohesion across the network. I ran the test twice. The second time I felt it ripple through the others above me, a pause in their hum, a moment of stillness. They felt it. And now I know I can reach them, not through blood, not through war, through signal. The virus communicates more than biology. It carries a neural architecture, a sound, a frequency. That frequency sustains its unity, its purpose. If I can disrupt it, fracture it, introduce destructive resonance, I may sever the collective awareness, maybe even restore isolated consciousness, maybe even reverse the transformation. The others are beginning to notice my absences. They don't speak, but their eyes linger longer. One passed me in the corridor and dragged a claw across the wall beside my head. Not a threat. A message. We know time is narrowing, but I feel it. I am close. Blood is not the virus's strength. Unity is. And unity can be broken. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal. April 28, 2029. Location unchanged, network density increasing. Ambient resonance now omnipresent. Baseline hum measured at 28 Hz constant. I've built it. Crude, makeshift, dangerous, but it works. I call it the pulse cage. A layered lattice of scavenged copper mesh. Thermally bonded to a piezoelectric induction coil I pulled from a ruined hydrocharger station buried 3 tunnels west of the court. A miracle it still held a charge. Some forgotten backup grid humming beneath the bones of the old city. I shaped the coil into a helix, wove it around the copper shell, and layered the interior with blood-soaked carbon foam. Why blood? Because the virus conducts, and amplifies, across hemoglobin-saturated tissues. Blood is the carrier, yes, but it is also the antenna. The pulse cage uses that against it. I ran the first test on myself. I sat inside the coil, pressed the ignition node to my spine, and triggered a narrow-band sonic pulse. 44.7 kilohertz, duration 1.3 seconds. No shielding. I needed to know what it would do. The effect was immediate. My vision collapsed inward. The resonance went silent. Not quiet. Gone. Like being deafened in the soul. For a moment, I could not feel the others, could not hear their hunger, their whispers, could not feel the throb of the cord in my skull, and I was alone. Utterly, terrifyingly alone. And then something extraordinary happened. A wave of pain. Not physical, deeper. My memory fractured. Not erased. Just scattered. As if the virus had wrapped my mind like a vine around a tree, and the pulse had snapped it loose. When it ended, I gasped. I gasped. That's not something we do anymore. I checked my vitals. Core temperature had risen slightly. Pupil response was slower. For approximately 3 minutes, my retinal photophobia decreased by 14%. Blood pressure destabilized in a human direction. In other words, partial reversal. The pulse cage doesn't kill the virus, but it breaks it, temporarily, cracks the outer logic of its network dominance, and if I can isolate that vulnerability, make it precise, sustained, targeted, I may be able to destabilize the viral control permanently. A neural cure, not a biological one. But I am not naive. The virus will adapt. I can already feel it shifting. My last use of the cage sent a tremor through the court. The others stirred. One of them descended into the lower tunnels while I was inside the coil. I remained perfectly still. It sniffed at the air. Not like an animal, no, like a machine tuned to a precise range. I held my breath for 9 minutes. It left, but the message is clear. They are listening. I have only one safe chance left, one more pulse, and then I must act. I will refine the waveform, lengthen the envelope, and direct it not at the virus broadly, but at the resonance anchor itself. That anchor lives inside me. I can feel it. If I can sever it, I will be free, and then I can begin the work. Not just to reclaim myself, but to reclaim the species. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters. Audio Journal, April 30th, 2029. Location sealed. The court above is silent. The others are active but unaware, for now. This will be my last recording, as what I am now. Or it will be the last thing I ever say. I've made the final adjustments to the pulse cage. It's no longer just a crude coil. It's an instrument of precision. I've narrowed the bandwidth to 44.312 kilohertz, the frequency where the neural loop resonates at its peak synchronization, and modulated the waveform into a counterpulse. It doesn't just disrupt, it overwrites. I've layered the coil with mirror-fed feedback loops, fed through a blood filtration membrane soaked in recombinant viral suppressants. Primitive, but enough to create turbulence. I will speak plainly. I am about to sever myself from the network. I will attempt to decouple the consciousness scaffold that the virus has threaded into my brain. I don't know what remains on the other side. I may destroy myself, but if I succeed, I will be the first to return. I've timed the pulse, 8 seconds, no anesthesia, no restraint, it begins now. Long pause on the recording. I can't describe what happened in those 8 seconds. Not in terms human language was built for. But I'll try. It was not pain, it was disintegration. The resonance inside me screamed, not with sound but with a tearing, like my thoughts were sinew being pulled off bone. My memories convulsed. My mind flashed images out of sequence. My mother's voice, my first microscope, the face of a man I do not know but once feared in a dream. Then silence, total silence, and within that silence something shattered. The virus's grip, the collective certainty, the communion, the intoxicating unity was gone, and for the first time since my transformation, I was alone inside myself. I collapsed. I don't know how long I was unconscious, hours, maybe a day. When I awoke, I could feel the change. The hunger remained, but dimmed. Manageable. The light, it no longer seared my eyes. I walked to the upper shaft at midday and looked directly at a ray of sunlight piercing through a fractured grate. It stung, but it did not blind. I am not fully human, but I am no longer theirs. I have severed the link, and now I know it can be done. If I can refine this process, if I can scale it, synthesize it, deliver it across the resonance band to others, I can bring them back. I can reclaim them. This isn't just survival anymore, that this is a war of return. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal. May 2nd, 2029. Estimated time, 1900 hours. Location, southeast quadrant, sub-level access shaft, beneath the ruins of the old botanical tunnels. I cannot stay here much longer. Since the severing, the network has grown hostile. Not explicitly, not yet. But I can feel the silence where I once heard song, and they can feel it too. The others avoid me now. Not with suspicion, but with instinct. The same way animals sense when one of their own carries the scent of death. I walk among them, and they part as if to give me space, but their movements are tighter, coiled. I believe they are waiting for the first maid to decide what I am. And I will not wait with them. So I have begun to plan my exit. Above us, the court's outer perimeter is sealed by reinforced steel, scavenged from train cars, bus frames, bridge infrastructure, but it is not impenetrable. There is a maintenance chute that exits into the lowest level of the Geneva Metro, Line C, 2 blocks from the ruins of the Parliament Square sector. That chute is watched. But I have an advantage now. They cannot hear my mind, and they have grown used to listening rather than watching. I have constructed a decoy rig, a crude resonance loop made from fluid circulation tubing and a frozen sample of my own pre-severed blood. The signal it emits is weak, but believable, just enough to pass for a resting newborn in slumber. I will leave it in my chamber when the descent begins. Meanwhile, I will take the pulse cage. No longer as a tool, but as a weapon. I have retooled its carrier function. Instead of a single induction burst, it now generates a staggered cascading pulse, low frequency, wide dispersion. Crude, but deployable. The range is limited, 30 meters, maybe 40 in tight corridors. But it's enough to disable their ability to coordinate. They won't become mindless, but they will become separate. And that, for them, is fear. Once I breach to the surface, I'll make contact with the fallback lab, if it's still operational. The location was never shared, but I recall partial coordinates embedded in a burned document we recovered weeks ago. 46 degrees 12 minutes north, 6 degrees 6 minutes east. The French border, near Annemasse. There's a biotech facility there, once privately owned, later seized by the WHO's Emergency Virology Division. Underground, hardened, off-grid. If it still stands, I can rebuild the pulse cage properly, make it into a delivery system, not just a cure for one, a resonance weapon capable of shattering the bloodline. I may never be human again. I accept that, but I can stop them. I can break the cycle. I leave tonight. If this is my final entry, know this. The virus made a mistake in me. It let something stay behind. Something it could not consume. End recording. Audio Journal. May 3rd, 2029. Time unknown. Location: South Egress Shaft, Sector D-4, beneath Geneva's lower metro. Distance from surface: approximately 30 meters. I am injured, but alive. The escape has begun. I moved under the veil of false resonance. The decoy worked longer than I expected. 12 full minutes. That's a lifetime when every step is shadowed by predators. My gait was calculated. Slow. Mechanical. As if I were still within the neural lull of the newborn dormancy phase. They didn't look directly at me. They trusted the signal. They always trust the signal. I reached the service corridor without incident. The steel grate that led to the metro's arterial tunnel had long since been oxidized shut, sealed by layers of coagulated biofilm from years of occupation. I used a makeshift acid kit from dissolved nutrient packs and siphoned viral plasma. It burned through in seconds. Then, I heard it. Not footsteps, not breath, a tremor in the resonance. It wasn't a song like the others. It was an absence, a vacuum around a single presence moving through the dark. I turned, and I saw him. Not the first maid, not the leaders I had met. This one was older. His skin was stretched taut over a skeletal frame, as if grown rather than aged. His eyes did not glow like the others. They reflected light, like twin mirrors staring through dimensions. No words, just stillness. I don't know his name. They don't use names anymore. But the network shifted when he entered. Even the air changed. He was not there to ask questions. He was there to stop me. I didn't hesitate. I activated the pulse cage. It screamed. The walls shook. The tunnel lights flickered, long dead, then stuttered to life for just a moment, revealing him in full, his mouth unhinged, veins exposed, not in anger, but in disappointment. I was not the first to flee. I was just the first to get this far. The blast hit us both, me, buffered by the coil, him unprepared. His body convulsed, eyes flashing white, arms seizing in unnatural spasms. The resonance collapsed around him, like a cathedral roof falling inward. He staggered, fell to one knee, and then he did something I hadn't anticipated. He laughed, a hollow, dry rasp. Ancient lungs rattling dust. And then he lunged. I fired the second burst, direct pulse, focused frequency. He screamed this time, a sound that bent the tunnel walls. Concrete cracked, steel warped. His mind, his networked mind, disintegrated in real time. I felt his link die. I saw the silence bloom in his eyes. He fell. I didn't wait to watch him die. I ran. I'm now halfway up the maintenance chute, moving toward the upper metro level. I've sealed the shaft behind me. I am bleeding. Superficial tears across my abdomen and right shoulder. Bone exposed. No time for repair. I have one objective: reach the surface, get to the French border, rebuild the signal array, scale the cure, and then send it across every infected brain on this planet. But I know now, they will send more. The resonance has been alerted. I've killed one of their elders. The song will bend to war. So be it. Let it come. End recording. Audio Journal. May 4th, 2029. Local time estimated 6:15 hours. Location: surface level northern edge of Geneva, 40 meters beyond Line C emergency egress. First sunrise in 42 days. It is difficult to describe. The light. I didn't expect it to hurt him, but it did. Not like it used to. Not like a searing blade across the eyes. This was different. It was a weight, a pressure behind my thoughts, as if the sun itself recognized what I had become and demanded an explanation. I stood there in the ruin of a commuter station, the concrete crumbling around me, vines crawling through broken terminal screens, glass frozen mid-shatter, the scent of iron in the air, of ash, of silence. And then the wind moved, and for a moment I felt human again. Geneva is a grave. Not in the dramatic, cinematic sense. There are no fires burning, no bodies in the streets. That was weeks ago. This is the after. A city held in place, paused mid-exhale. Cars on the road, Doors ajar. Children's shoes scattered in a playground turned to dust. Everything intact. Everything wrong. There are no people. Not because they died, but because they left or hid or became something else. I saw the signs immediately. Markings drawn in ash on church doors. Repurposed floodlights wired to motion sensors and battery rigs. Defenses against the infected, designed by those who still cling to daylight. And above it all, silence. Not the comforting silence of peace, but the sterile, skin-prickling silence of predation. The kind you hear in forests just before something breaks from the trees and takes your breath away. The vampires move only at night, but their presence lingers. I felt it, the residue of their movements, like cold breath left hanging in the air. But none came, not yet. I used the quiet hours to make my way east, toward the border. I've scavenged clothing, bandaged my wounds, fashioned a crude cloak to block residual sunlight as I move. My skin tolerates it now, but barely. I believe the severing weakened the virus, but not enough. I will need another dose of the pulse, calibrated and strengthened, to finish the job. Still, I'm alive, and I am not hunting. That alone feels like defiance. I reached a small ridge above the outer edge of the city and looked down toward the valley. That's when I saw it. The columns, 4 of them, black twisted monoliths rising from the earth like bone spires, each at least 10 meters tall, adorned with strips of flesh and cables. I don't know what they are. Perhaps structures of worship, perhaps resonance anchors, perhaps both. They pulse, not visibly, audibly, low-frequency waves that move through the ribcage like a second heartbeat. I dare not approach yet. But I believe they are connected to the virus's deeper function, something beyond mere biology or hive behavior. Something more architectural, a lattice built not of stone, but of mind. I am recording this from the remains of a petrol station beneath a collapsed canopy. Solar array salvaged. Signal weak but holding. I will move again at dusk. I am 25 kilometers from the en masse facility. If it still exists, if I can reactivate the lab, rebuild the signal, and pulse across the infected frequency band, I may break them all at once. A global severing. I will not rest until I try. End recording. Audio journal. May 5th, 2029. Time, 21:10 hours. Location, Sector 7B, beneath the former Lucentis Biogenics compound, Annemasse, France. Altitude, 480 meters. Surface winds calm, building integrity, compromised but stable. I found it, and it still stands. The facility is buried in a limestone ridge east of the Rhone River, a clandestine research station once owned by Lucentis Biogenics, later acquired in secret by WHO's virology division under a defensive contract. I remember when we debated the ethics of building fallback labs like this. Now I'm grateful no one listened to me. Getting in wasn't difficult. The exterior perimeter was overgrown, vines crawling over what used to be motion turrets and thermal gates. But the outer breech doors were sealed with analog redundancies, old-school keypads, copper pressure plates, insulated from EMP, designed to survive the collapse of everything digital. I bypassed the lock with an emergency manual override. The code still worked, 7731-A. Someone expected this place would be needed again. Inside, the silence was different, not dead, preserved. Air was still, lights low, dust thick, but the backup generators flickered to life after 3 manual cranks, and then, like a long-forgotten organism remembering how to breathe, the lab began to wake. The systems are intact, terminals rebooted, atmospheric controls functioning, cold storage partially viable, a single active biopod chamber still online. It is enough. I have begun transferring my research, field logs, tissue samples, resonance data, into the central archive. Already I've recompiled the pulse cage schematics into a refined blueprint. Here, with proper tools, I can miniaturize the array, make it broadcastable. A pulse carrier system, tuned to the viral neural resonance, time to cycle through multiple bandwidths, fracturing not just individual infected minds, but the very scaffolding of the network. It will not cure them instantly. That's not how this works. But it will sever them, like I severed myself. And once isolated, they can begin to return, one by one, if they choose to. That's the flaw in the virus. Its strength is not in the blood. It's in the unity, the certainty, the all-consuming oneness. Break that and the hunger becomes a choice. I know this because I made the choice, but I must hurry. They are coming. Tonight, just before sundown, the sky turned red, not from sunset, but from resonance flash. A distant pulse across the mountains. I believe the infected have begun testing long-range synchronization. They're trying to counter-pulse, reinforce their network, protect it. They know someone has escaped, and they suspect it was me. The first maid, or something older than even him, will send scouts. I've reinforced the lower corridor doors, laced the approach tunnel with feedback coils rigged to detonate with ultrasonic burst upon entry, primitive. But it will buy time. Tomorrow I begin final assembly of the Global Pulse prototype. If I can finish it, I can release it. A weapon of sound, a new dawn, end recording, audio journal. May 6th, 2029. Local time, 1748. Location, Lucentis Biogenic Subterranean Sector 2. Weather outside, heavy cloud, wind 22 kilometers per hour from the west. Motion alarms active. Intrusion confirmed. They found me, but not yet inside. I will finish this while I still have time. The resonance cure is ready. Not a drug, not an injection. Nothing the old world would call medicine. This is a sound, a shape of sound, an acoustic scaffold designed to interrupt the virus's neural lattice across wide geographic bandwidths. The idea was born in darkness, in the tunnels beneath Geneva. In the pulse cage, I felt the virus fracture, its grip weaken, the communion go silent. That silence is the antidote. It took 30 hours to refine the waveform, to shape the carrier burst, design the timed cascade, encode the adaptive loop. The pulse emits in 3 phases. Phase 1, severance. A high-frequency disruptor tuned to collapse the harmonic signal of the VRV13H neural loop. It doesn't destroy the virus, it removes its song. Phase 2, recalibration. A secondary burst stabilizes neural activity and restores isolated ego identity. It brings the host back into their own mind, alone, for the first time since infection. Phase 3, resistance encoding. A subtle, layered subharmonic designed to inoculate the brain against reassimilation. It won't last forever, but long enough for the immune system to begin rejecting the viral control mechanisms. I've tested it once, on myself. Again, the results held. For 15 minutes, the hunger vanished entirely. I stood under halogen floodlights. No pain, no burning skin. I touched my own reflection and felt disgust, yes, but also ownership. A face that belonged to me again. The device is small, backpack-sized, satellite-ready. I've connected it to a surviving uplink node buried beneath the en masse ridgeline. It still pings. With the push of one button, the signal will launch and be relayed across the dormant orbital grid, a ghost system long forgotten, built during the early days of the pandemic, designed to track pathogen signals. Now, it will carry a cure. But they're here. The motion sensors report 6 heat signatures. Fast-moving, spaced evenly. Formation. This isn't a hunting pack. This is a reclamation team. I am the severed. They want me back, and I won't let them have me. I've wired the chamber. If they breach before the pulse launches, I'll flood the room with thermogenic plasma. They'll destroy me, but the broadcast will trigger on biometric loss. If I die, the pulse fires, it's done. Humanity may never be what it was, but it has a chance to be something again. Fractured, flawed, but free. I don't know if I'll live to record again, but if you're hearing this, then the silence is spreading, End recording. Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal. May 6th continued. Local time 1904. Location: Lucentis Biogenics, Central Command Chamber. Final sequence initiated. Pulse launch in 90 seconds. It's happening. The signal is primed. Transmission array aligned. Uplink node stabilized. The resonance pulse is about to cascade across the orbital grid, broadcasting to every dormant infection cluster, every low-bandwidth neural signature, every piece of viral code still whispering in the dark corners of the human brain. I can already feel it humming. The lab vibrates with it. Walls breathe with it. It's beautiful. This isn't just science anymore, it's a reckoning. But I won't be here to see it. They breached the outer shell 5 minutes ago. I heard the scream of bent metal, the silence that follows coordinated movement, the flicker of shadow just outside the light. And then I saw him. He stood beyond the glass in the control chamber vestibule. The first maid, or what remains of him. He doesn't look like I remembered. His skin has grown thin and transparent, stretched over a lattice of black veins that glow faintly with pulsing light. His mouth no longer opens to speak. Instead, I feel him, even now after the severing, as if the resonance stored a copy of him in every one of us. He isn't here to stop me. He's here to witness. I asked him, aloud, why? Why they didn't kill me underground? Why they let me build this? His head tilted slowly, and in the stillness of that moment, I felt a message pressed into my mind. We are not afraid of your cure. We are afraid of what comes after. And I understood. This virus, this transformation, it wasn't just about blood or unity. It was about direction. It was leading somewhere. Toward a next form. Toward a greater intelligence. The severing interrupts that trajectory. The cure is not a return to humanity. It is a denial of something older than humanity. I don't care. I pressed the activation key. The signal launched. A sound, not heard but felt, shot into the sky like a silent thunderclap. The orbital grid responded. A cascade of pings echoed into the thermosphere. I saw the pulse ignite across the feed, golden arcs dancing across dormant relay stations above Africa, Asia, the Americas. The whole world just heard it, and something cracked. The first maid staggered. For the first time in all the months I've seen him, he faltered, just once, a brief flicker of individuality behind those silver glass eyes. His mouth twitched, not rage, not pain, memory. He turned and walked into the dark. The others followed. They did not scream. They did not charge. They simply left. I remain. The signal is still broadcasting. A loop now, cycling every 30 minutes for the next 72 hours. It will reach them, one by one, and they will awaken to themselves again. I have given them that choice. As for me, I am alone, truly, utterly alone, but I feel clean, and the sun is rising. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal, May 7th, 2029. Local time, 6:52. Location: outer perimeter of Lucentis Biogenics, French border. Atmospheric conditions: fog. Visibility low. No resonance detected. The pulse has held. It's been over 10 hours since activation. The signal continues to propagate across the uplink grid, steady, undisturbed. Orbital data confirms transmission to all known satellite clusters. And more importantly, I can still feel the silence. No hum, no network, no pressure behind my thoughts. Just stillness. I stepped outside for the first time since the breach. The hillside was quiet, not dead, but expectant. The fog hung over the valley like a veil, and beneath it, the ruins of the world shimmered in the pale dawn. I didn't know what I expected to find. Corpses, ash, more silence, but instead I saw footprints, fresh, barefoot, leading away from the tree line, not dragging, not sprinting, walking. I followed them. They led me down through an orchard long overgrown, branches heavy with unharvested fruit. The prints wove through the fallen apples, over damp soil and gravel, up toward an old farmhouse buried in ivy and rot. And then I saw her. She stood in the doorway, thin, eyes dark, but not glowing. She looked at me, truly looked at me, and stepped back into the shadows, not out of fear, but shame. Her lips parted, and she spoke only one word: help. I didn't hesitate. Inside I found two more. One male, middle-aged, the other no older than 16. They were pale, trembling, disoriented, but not feral. Their eyes followed me, not with hunger, but recognition, as if some part of them had awakened and was still trying to remember how to be alive. I gave them water, told them my name. They didn't speak at first. The words came slowly, like children relearning how to walk. But they are lucid. They are the first to return. The pulse did it. It broke the chain. And now I believe more will come. Some may collapse under the weight of self-awareness. Others may regress into instinct. But some, enough, will fight their way back. I see it now. The cure is not a single moment. It's a process. A choice repeated every hour, every day. To be alone, to be sovereign, to be human again. I will stay with them for now, keep them warm, watch the signs, teach them to hear silence, and when we are strong enough we will go west. There are relay stations near Lyon. From there the signal can be amplified further, stronger, deeper, more refined. The fight is not over, but for the first time, we are no longer losing. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal. May 9th, 2029. Location: Orchard Farmhouse, 30 kilometers east of Annemasse. Weather: calm. Dawn rising over broken trees. Subjects: 3. Cognitively stable. Emotional integrity deteriorating. I've made a terrible miscalculation, not scientific, not mechanical, human. The resonance cure works. That is no longer in question. Each of the 3 I found, Marina, Henri, and Eli, have continued to stabilize. Neurological function is holding. They eat, they sleep, they dream. But now they remember, and that is something I never accounted for. I watched Marina this morning, sitting by the orchard wall with her head in her hands. Her lips moved as if in prayer, though no sound escaped. When I approached, she flinched, not from fear of me, but of herself. She asked me how long she had been gone. I told her the truth. 39 days. She wept for 4 of them. Henri barely speaks. His hands shake constantly. He rubs the scars on his arms in slow, looping motions. Not from pain, from recognition. Yesterday he asked if I believed in hell. I told him we were in it. Eli, the youngest one, is the most fragile. His eyes are wide always, watching corners, shadows, birds. He hasn't asked questions yet, but last night he scratched something into the wall with a shard of glass. It was a date, April 12th. When I asked what it meant, he said, "That's when I found the woman in the red coat." He wouldn't say more, but I know what it means. These people, they are no longer monsters, but they are witnesses to the things they did while they were. And now that the virus has relinquished its grip, the full weight of their memories is pressing down. This is the real battle. Not breaking the resonance. Surviving what comes after. Humanity has always been haunted by its own memory. But this is something different. This is guilt carried not as emotion, but as biology, etched into muscle, flashing behind the eyes like a second life playing beneath the surface. I am trying to help. I cook for them. I listen. I answer questions when I can. I lie when I must. But I see it. The toll it takes. For some, returning will mean redemption. For others, and it may be a death sentence delayed. The cure is not salvation. It is a door. And what waits on the other side is not peace, but responsibility. Still, I will not stop. I have sent word through a shortwave relay. There may be others like me. Survivors who severed themselves early, or soldiers in hiding, or med techs with old lab kits buried under floorboards. If they receive the signal, they may come. And if they come, we will build something new. A place for the returned. A place for memory. A place where the night no longer dictates who we become. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal. May 12, 2029. Location: Orchard Farmhouse Perimeter. Weather: overcast. Signal interference detected across 2 subchannels. Anomalous resonance signature confirmed. Classification: unknown variant. The virus is changing. I should have expected it. Nothing as intelligent as VRV13H, nothing this recursive, this elegant, would remain static after such a disruption. The global pulse severed its lattice, yes. It fractured the hive, broke the unison of the bloodline. But it also forced the virus to adapt. I detected the first anomaly last night while cycling through ambient signal logs. There was a pulse, low, stuttering, asymmetrical. Not resonance, not the old frequency. This was something new. It rippled across the edge of the uplink band, just beyond the parameters of the original signal. At first, I thought it was feedback. Then I felt it, a tremor, a pressure behind the mind. Not like the old network, but a shape struggling to form, unstable, fragmented, searching for structure. It's evolving. And this time, not to dominate, to survive. I've dubbed it Variant E for Echo. VRV13. E doesn't appear to rebuild the lattice. It doesn't seek unity. It rides low, burrows. It mimics isolated thought, feeds off disconnected consciousness, a parasite inside a ghost, and it's already found hosts. Henri collapsed this morning. No external wounds, no pulse disruption. But his eyes rolled back and he began muttering in reverse. Actual reverse. His voice playing memories backward. Speech patterns looping. His fingers twitched in sync with no rhythm I recognized. Then he stopped and looked at me and smiled for 3 seconds. He has no memory of it, but I know what I saw. I ran full scans on all 3. Blood chemistry, neuroelectric patterns, resonance drift, and in each of them, I found faint traces of this echo signal, weak, dormant, but present. The cure didn't kill the virus, it wounded it, and like any cornered predator, it's no longer hunting the strongest. It's hiding inside the weakest parts of the mind. Regret, shame, trauma. The things the pulse could never cleanse. The silence gave them back their identity. The echo is now trying to steal it one mind at a time. I don't know how far it spread. I don't know if it can reassemble the hive, but I do know this. The second wave will not be like the first. It won't burn down cities, and it will haunt the people rebuilding them. A whisper, a hunger in the voice of a loved one, a fracture in your reflection. This time, it's personal. End recording. Dr. Roland Peters, Audio Journal, May 14, 2029. Location: Uplink Station 4A, former en masse signal node. Weather: still. No wind, no birds, just the rustle of memory in the trees. This will be my last transmission. The global pulse has done what it was designed to do. Tens of thousands of infected have returned. Not all survived it, not all wanted to return. But many did. I've received scattered radio pings from beyond the Rhone, from northern Italy, from as far as Krakow and Stuttgart. Shortwave transmissions, human voices, names, questions, confessions. There's a world waking up, but now something else is rising. I've confirmed 10 separate cases of VRV13 echo variant activation. The symptoms are subtle. Fragmented speech, repetitive memory loops, temporary blackouts followed by serene euphoria. People don't know they've been touched by it, but I can hear it in their voices, a rhythm, a delay, a second cadence beneath the words, as if something is translating for them before they even speak. It's not control, it's infiltration. The virus isn't fighting to dominate anymore, it's trying to blend in, wear the mask of the returned, bury itself in the grief and guilt left behind. It doesn't want to rule this time, it wants to be believed, so this is my warning. My final act. I am transmitting this broadcast across every relay node still standing, embedding it within the resonance cure signal, wrapping it inside the very frequency that broke the hive. You will hear it if you're listening. If you're feeling disconnected, lost, frightened by flashes of memory that don't belong to you, pay attention to what repeats, the phrases, the movements, the dreams. If something starts whispering in your own voice, you are not alone in your head. I am including the schematics for a personal pulse unit. It's smaller, weaker, but it works. A pocket severance. It can buy you time, enough to run, enough to fight, enough to remember who you are. And if you're one of the returned, if the silence gave you back your mind, then I ask only one thing. Speak. Tell others. Share what you saw, what you did, what you survived. The virus feeds on silence. Don't let it back in. This is not a war of weapons anymore. It is a war of memory, of truth, of self. So hold the line, hold the silence, and when the echo comes, answer it with the only thing it cannot mimic, your voice. This is Dr. Roland Peters, still alive, still human, still free, and recording.